Hi, in this video we will learn more about rules of the air. Okay, what do you mean by rules of the air? Of course, we are commanding an aircraft or we are flying an aircraft, right? During flying there should be some rules and regulations which a pilot should follow in order to avoid any accidents or incidents or whatever it may be, and for the smooth operation of air navigation. So there are certain rules laid down by ICAO, and in ICAO where the rules come, it is the Annex 2 part of ICAO which deals with the rules of the air. Rules of the ground movement of aircraft also comes under this section. And India has got a CAR, Civil Aviation Requirement, Section 4, Aerodrome Standards and Air Traffic Services, E, Part 1. That is where the rules of the air has been documented for Indian nationals and for Indian rules. It is documented over there. Okay, so you have to know it is ICAO Annex 2 which deals with the rules of the air, and Indian CAR, Section 4, Aerodrome Standards and Air Traffic Services, which deals with the rules of the air. And let me know you one thing. Rules of the air is a very important chapter, and you should remember some of the rules, means most of the rules throughout your career. And I say around 15 to 20% of questions come from this chapter alone, this section alone. And this is a somewhat vast chapter, so I have divided this into 2-3 parts of videos, means continuous parts. And the first one is general rules of the air. Then comes the marshalling signals and RVSM, CVSM divisions, etc. And like that I have divided into 3 videos. Okay, so in this video we should learn about the general rules. And this is not too hard to learn, and it is not too hard to remember. Every rules are based, we can judge based on our common sense itself what this rule is all about and all. Okay, so let us start with the rules. Compliance with the rules of the air. Every flight crew should be compliant with the rules of the air, and there are 2 types of rules. One is the visual flight rules, and the second one is the instrument flight rules. Okay, IFR and for VFR and IFR conditions. And let us start with the basics. Pre-flight action. Before beginning a flight, the pilot in command should be familiar with the rules, familiar with the available information and appropriate actions to be taken and what it is all about. Flight related details of and in the vicinity of the aerodrome, etc. And authority of pilot in command of an aircraft. Pilot in command, the commander or the captain is responsible for maintaining and to obey the rules. And all the responsibility of the pilot is to the pilot in command itself. And problematic use of psychoactive substances. No personnel who is concerned with the safety and safe conduct of flight should be under the influence of any psychoactive substance, including alcohol and any such other substances, even medicines, okay, during flight, so that human performance should not be impaired at any manner due to the use of any psychoactive substance. And okay, let us start with the general rules. First of all, protection of persons and property. Negligent or reckless operation of aircraft. No person should cause an aircraft to have any reckless or negligent operation. Means negligence should be avoided at any cost in aviation. Negligence may translate to disaster, so negligence of any manner should be avoided. Then comes the minimum safe height. For flying, there should be some minimum height, minimum safe height to be maintained from the terrain or from whatever the surface. Okay, there are standards for maintaining this minimum safe height. DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation, from time to time issues CAR and related documents if there is any amendment to the current safe height dimensions. Then comes cruising levels. Cruising levels means the level at which an aircraft cruise, means at which the aircraft travels horizontally to the surface of the earth in most of the time when it is traveling. It is not in the climb or descent phase, it is the cruising level. Okay. Flight levels or flights or at or above the lowest usable flight level, or where applicable above transition altitude. Transition altitude means the altitude in which the transition, this transition we will learn more about transition in RVSM and CVSM. There we have to learn about the transition details. Then comes altitude or flights below the lowest usable flight level or the transition altitude. That also comes under the safe height thing. Then comes dropping or spraying. No aircraft should drop or spray anything from the aircraft. Nothing shall be sprayed or dropped from an aircraft without prior written consent from the DGCA. And that the rule comes under Rule 26 of Aircraft Act 1937. Rule 26 deals with the dropping and spraying of articles from an aircraft. Then comes towing. No aircraft shall tow another aircraft. Tow means one aircraft is there, it is pulling some other aircraft using some rope or something. That is called towing. Towing. No aircraft should tow any other aircraft. Okay. Then comes parachute descents. Parachute descent means descending from an aircraft or jumping from an aircraft using a parachute. It is prohibited in commercial aviation unless safety of the passengers is in question, or using or with some written prior permission from DGCA. For example, skydiving and all, we also used to do skydiving in commercial aviation. So, for the fun sake, so for that prior permission is required. Then comes acrobatic flight. Acrobatic flight means these flight exercises you see during air show and all. No commercial aircraft is allowed for acrobatic flight, and means in the normal manner. But aerobatics is permitted with the written consent of DGCA, and there are certain rules for aerobatics also. It shall be flown by a licensed pilot, or if it is flown by a person for the purpose of qualifying for a license under these rules, such person shall be accompanied by a licensed pilot instructor. These aerobatic flights should be performed by a certified pilot who is capable of doing such flights. Okay. Otherwise, it should be done for teaching a pilot by another pilot, another flight instructor who is certified to teach the aerobatics. And if passengers are carried, whether carriage is public transport or not, their previous consent of performance of aerobatics shall be obtained in writing. If passengers are carried in such aerobatic flights, they should be aware of this aerobatic performance, and it should be written. Their consent for this aerobatic flight should be written and should be kept prior to doing this performance. The pilot or person in charge of aircraft shall satisfy himself before commencing the flight that every person carried in the aircraft is properly secured by safety belts. The pilot in command, PIC, should know and should be satisfied about the safety of the passengers, and he should make sure that the passengers are secure. They are secure to the seats using safety belts. And the aerobatics shall be commenced at such a height that will permit completion of maneuver at a height of not less than 600 meters or 2,000 feet from the ground, or such a higher height as specified in the certificate of airworthiness issued. That means here is the ground level. This is 600 meter or 2,000 feet. If an aerobatic activity is taking place here and it is like a roll, this roll should be completed above 600 meter. The minimum height should be 600 meter, above which the maneuver should be completed, or 2,000 feet. This is the minimum required, and it can be more as regulated by the DGCA from time to time. No person shall fly aerobatically unless, or so as to constitute traffic hazards. Means no aerobatic flight should be conducted so that it may cause any hazard to the air traffic. Okay, this is understood. Or in the vicinity of an aerodrome at a distance less than 2 nautical miles from the nearest point of the perimeter of the aerodrome, unless flown at a height greater than 1,800 meters. If aerodrome is over here, and the performance should be more than 2 nautical miles from the aerodrome, unless the height is 1,800 meters or 6,000 feet height. The height is 6,000 feet or more, it can be done. Otherwise, the minimum distance from the aerodrome should be 2 nautical miles. Okay. Then comes formation flights. What do you mean by formation? One flight is going on and one in behind and one in behind, like that. That is called a formation. Formation flight is prohibited in commercial or in civil aircraft. No civil aircraft shall be flown in formation. And comes unmanned free balloons. An unmanned free balloon shall be operated in such a manner as to minimize hazard to persons, property or other aircraft, and in accordance with the conditions specified. Okay. Actually, unmanned air balloons, it should be operated in a safe manner, that's it. Then comes prohibited areas and restricted areas. During flying, we should make sure that our flying is not being conducted over any prohibited or restricted areas. What are some of the prohibited areas? Madura refineries, Mumbai refineries, Parliament. These are all prohibited areas. Above prohibited areas, flying should not be conducted at any cost, otherwise in emergency. Okay. Restricted areas are such areas where some restrictions are there for flying, such as minimum altitude must be this much and minimum speed might be this much, like that. That is called restricted areas. Then comes avoidance of collision. Even though these rules are valid, still to avoid collision, pilots can do some adjustment from these rules so that the collisions can be avoided. Okay. For example, the ACAS instrument, avoidance of collision avoidance systems in aircrafts, TCAS, ACAS, equipments are giving you advisory to move to somewhat right or left or descent or like that. Then you have to follow that so that a collision should be avoided. In such case, you should not be giving importance to the rules we have mentioned, we have discussed. You should give importance to collision avoidance at first, because safety is given the prior concern. Then comes proximity. An aircraft shall not be operated in such proximity to other aircraft as to create a collision hazard. An aircraft should not be in such proximity. Proximity means So means it is near to the aircraft going in front or whatever. So proximity, distance between two aircrafts must be maintained in such a level so that no collision can happen between them. Okay, so proximity should be kept, means minimum distance from proximity. So then comes the right of way. A right of way means in a busy traffic environment, each aircraft will have its own right of way. It also has the right to move. Okay, so we have given some priority based on this. Means which aircraft should be given more priority, which one has the right of way when there are two aircrafts. Okay, these rules comes under this. One is approaching head on. Head on means like this. One aircraft is coming from west and one is coming from east. Okay, so head on, both are coming, so that a collision may happen. At that time, how the collision should be avoided? Each aircraft should move to the right in a head-on situation. For example, aircraft is coming like this and one aircraft is going like this. Each aircraft should move to the right, to its right, so that the collision can be avoided. If you are seeing a aircraft is coming towards you head-on, then you should move towards the right. Even if he is not listening or even if he is not moving, then also you can move towards the right and you are getting the way, so no props. Then comes converging. If two aircrafts are in a converging manner, coming in a converging manner, for example, an aircraft is coming like this and another aircraft is coming like this. Okay, means the angle should be less than 70 degree. That is called converging. Means sometimes or later it may at the same flight level. If they are coming at the same flight level and they are converging, then what should be done? The aircraft which has the aircraft at the right has the right of way. Okay, that means this aircraft is A and this one is B. In this situation, A has the right of way. That means B has to give way to the aircraft A. The aircraft which has the other aircraft in its right has the right of way. This aircraft. Remember, you have to visualize this thing. During converging, the aircraft which has the other aircraft in the right has the right of way. But there are some exceptions also. What are the exceptions? Power driven heavier than air aircraft, power driven flights should give way to non-power driven aircraft like gliders. Then comes gliders should give way to airships. Then comes airships. Heavier than air aircrafts should give way to airships. Airships shall give way to gliders and balloons. Gliders should give way to balloons. This is the priority. So balloons have the most priority during flight. If two aircrafts are in a converging are converging, which one has the right of way? The aircraft which has the other aircraft on its right. That means in this case A has the right of way. And heavier than air aircraft, power driven heavier than air aircraft should give way to airships. Airships should give way to gliders, non-powered gliders. Gliders should give way to balloons. That is the priority. Then comes overtaking. Overtaking means an aircraft is going like this. Aircraft A is going like this, and an aircraft B is coming from behind and it wants to go like this. Okay, this is called overtaking, aircraft B. In this case, aircraft A has its right of way. Aircraft B has to avert its route so that it will stay clear from the route of A. If aircraft B is faster than aircraft A and the same flight level should be maintained in such a situation. Suppose no other option is there, B cannot reduce the speed too much because its specification might be like that, it should be from such a speed. So it can overtake A, and overtaking should be through the right, and safe distance to stay clear of A should be maintained throughout the overtaking process. Okay, that is how you should overtake an aircraft. And aircraft in flight shall give way to aircraft in its landing or takeoff phase. Landing phase and takeoff phase are very critical to flights. So aircrafts in such operations should be given way by aircrafts in flight. Okay. Then comes if two or more heavier than aircraft are approaching an aerodrome for the purpose of landing, aircraft at the higher level shall give way to the aircraft at the lower level. Runway is like this. Okay. One aircraft is coming like this and one aircraft is coming like this. One is at a higher height and one is at a lower height. The aircraft at a higher height shall give way to the aircraft at the lower height. That is the rule. But what if the aircraft at the higher height is approaching the runway and the aircraft at the lower height is somewhat far away from the runway? Aircraft at the lower height should be given preference, but in this case it should not cut in to land the aircraft, so that land so that it may cause traffic issues. In this case, aircraft at a higher height should be given preference. Usually aircraft at a higher height shall give way to aircraft at a lower height. Then comes emergency landing. An aircraft which is suspected to be in emergency landing or if it is in an emergency landing procedure should be given utmost priority. Whatever the class of aircraft it may be, if an aircraft is in emergency and it want to land, it should be given most priority. Okay. Then comes surface movement of aircraft. What do you mean by surface movement? Surface movement means taxiing, movement towards apron and all, movement for all other purpose in land, in the surface, in the aerodrome. That is called a surface movement. There are certain rules stated for the surface movement also. Lights should be displayed, means navigation lights are there, they should be displayed, and there are certain rules for surface movement of the aircraft. In case of danger of collision between two aircraft taxiing on the movement area of the aerodrome, the following shall apply. When two aircraft are approaching head-on, in the surface also, if two aircraft are approaching head-on, both should brake, both should apply brake heavily, and in order to avert a collision, both may turn to their right. They should turn to the right in order to avert a collision. When two aircraft are on a converging course, the one which has the other on the right shall give way. The same. When two aircraft are on a converging course, the one which has the other on its right shall give way. Here we learn like the one which has the other aircraft on its right has the right of way. Here in surface movement, the one which has the other on its right shall give way to the other. Okay, that is the difference. An aircraft which is overtaken by another aircraft shall have the right of way, and the overtaking aircraft shall keep well clear of the other aircraft. In overtaking case, it is same as the case in air itself. One aircraft is overtaken by another aircraft during ground operations. The first aircraft has the right of way, and the other aircraft should stay well clear of the first aircraft to avoid collision. An aircraft taxiing on the maneuvering area shall stop and hold at all runway holding positions unless otherwise authorized by the aerodrome control tower. If the aerodrome control tower is not asking you to hold, then also you should hold on all holding points in the taxiway. If the control tower is asking you to expedite, or is asking you to move on, then you can move on without stopping. Otherwise you have to stop at all the taxiing point or taxi holding points of the runway. Okay. Then comes lights to be displayed by the aircraft. Aircrafts have many lights in them. You might have noticed. During night also you can notice all the lights lit up. So what are these lights for? What do they indicate? Okay. From sunset to sunrise or during any other period which may be prescribed by DGCA, a flight shall display anti-collision lights intended to attract attention to the aircraft. Anti-collision lights are fixed on the aircraft, which are used to gain attention to the aircraft, and navigation lights intended to indicate the relative path of the aircraft from the observer, and the other lights shall not be displayed if they are likely to be mistaken for these lights. There are navigation lights which can be used to determine the relative path of the aircraft. What do you mean by that? An aircraft is coming from our front. By looking at the lights, we can make sure that which part of aircraft we are seeing or which action the aircraft is taking. We can know the relative position of the aircraft with respect to us by looking at the navigation light. By looking at the position of the lights, navigation lights, we can make sure that we are seeing this part, starboard side or port side or whatever side we are looking at, that we can make out. So that light should be lit, should be switched on to avoid any possible collision at night. Yes, navigation lights also help to give the relative position of the aircraft and even size sometimes. If we know the type of the aircraft and we are seeing the lights, then we can say, okay, this aircraft is this much far from us. And if it is coming towards us, or if it is going away from us, we can see the lights coming closer. That means the aircraft is moving away. If the lights are becoming the distance between the lights are becoming large and the lights are becoming bright, that means it is coming towards us. Okay, from that we can make out the distance and the relative position of the aircraft with respect to us. So that also should be displayed. From sunset to sunrise or during any other time of the day, as prescribed by the DGCA, all aircraft moving on the movement area of an aircraft shall display navigation lights intended to indicate the relative path of the aircraft. Okay. Then, unless stationary and otherwise adequately illuminated, all aircraft on the movement area of an aerodrome shall display lights intended to indicate the extremities of their structure. Aircraft should light up their lights to indicate the extremities of their structure. What it means? Aircraft is not a very small thing, you know. So it is a large body. It has a large body, and there are lights at the extreme ends of each part of the aircraft. At the tip of the wings, in the nose of the aircraft, in the tail, everywhere there are lights. That should be lit to inform the onlooker that the aircraft is this much of size and these are the extremities of the structural part of the aircraft. Okay. For that, this light should be lit, switched on. All aircraft operating on the movement area of an aerodrome shall display lights intended to attract attention to the aircraft. Lights should be lit to attract the attention to the aircraft, so that we can know that that aircraft is there as usual. All aircraft on the movement area of an aerodrome whose engines are running shall display lights which indicate that fact. A running engine is a very dangerous thing in ground. It sucks a lot of air in and pushes a lot of air to its rear. So it is a dangerous thing. It can easily suck up a human being also. So indication for a running engine should be given using lights to make sure that the engine is running when someone is watching. Some aircraft engines are so powerful that they can even suck the vehicles also, towing vehicles also, if run at a specific speed. So indications, clear indication should be there, lit up indication should be there to make sure that others are aware that the aircraft engine is running. Okay. Then comes all aircraft in flight and fitted with anti-collision lights shall display such lights also outside the period specified above. Means some aircrafts are, means all of the aircrafts will be fitted with anti-collision lights. Anti-collision lights means lights which indicates extremities of aircraft structure and to avoid the collision. So anti-collision lights should be switched on at all phases of flight. Then comes all aircraft operating on the movement area of an aerodrome fitted with anti-collision lights shall display such lights as specified. Anti-collision lights also should be switched on as per the directives. A pilot shall be permitted to switch off or reduce the intensity of any flashing light when they are likely to adversely affect the satisfactory performance of duties. Some lights are so intense, like flashing lights are so intense that it may cause you a dazzle in your eyes. So it can affect the performance. So in such a case, pilots are allowed to reduce the intensity of the light, of such light. Simulated instrument flights. An aircraft shall not be flown under simulated instrument flight condition unless fully functioning dual controls are installed in the aircraft. If the aircraft is fitted with dual controls and they both are fully functional, then only simulated flying should be done. A qualified pilot occupies a control seat to act as a safety pilot for the person who is flying under simulated instrument conditions. If one pilot is flying as a flying it in a instrument as per IFR conditions, then an actual pilot should be in the cabin, in the cockpit, so that he can control the aircraft, and he should not be in the IFR simulated conditions. He should be able to access VFR also. Then only simulated IFR flight should be conducted. Then comes operation on and in the vicinity of an aerodrome. An aircraft operated on or in the vicinity of an aerodrome shall, whether or not in a controlled aerodrome traffic zone, observe other aerodrome traffic for the purpose of avoiding collision. Whenever you are flying, you must keep an eye outside to make sure no chances of collision is there. You must watch out for upcoming traffic to make sure that no chances of collision is there. Conform with or avoid the pattern of traffic formed by other aircraft in operation. You should be in conformity with the traffic pattern in the aerodrome, or you should avoid the traffic, means you should be away from the traffic region. Make all turns to the left unless otherwise instructed. You are allowed to make turns to the left when you are flying. Otherwise, unless instructed otherwise by the ATC. Land and take off into the wind. If wind is coming from there, you should take off into the wind. That is the safest method. unless safety of other parameters like runway configuration should be is there, runway configuration is there, some other weather activities, whatever. If something else is prohibiting you from doing so, you should take off into the wind and land into the wind. Landing into the wind means, what is the advantage you are getting? When taking off into the wind, you will get a better climb rate, right? Because you are getting a headwind. And when during landing, if you are getting a headwind, that means you can stop easily. If you are landing with a tailwind, wind hitting from the back, you will have to move further to get a full stop, and you will have to apply the brakes heavily. If you are taking off or landing into the wind, it is more beneficial to the flying. When an aerodrome control tower is in operation at an aerodrome, the PAC shall also maintain a continuous listening watch to the radio communication. If the ATC, active ATC is there, aerodrome traffic center is there, traffic control is there, then you should listen to your radio every time. Keep a watch. Just listen to the radio. You should not be attentive enough so that you can't listen anything else. Not like that. You have to just keep an ear on the radio, what communication is coming, so that you can listen to the messages from ATC. Then obtain either by radio or by visual signals prior authorization for any maneuver associated with taxiing, landing and takeoff. If you are a PAC, you are the PAC of a aircraft. You are responsible for any traffic action. So before doing any ground maneuver, you should get prior information. It means you should be in direct contact with the ground staff or with the ATC by visual signals or by radio communication methods. You should be getting authorization from ATC or the ground crew to avoid any possible collision or traffic issues. Okay. That's all for the first part, and then next part we will deal more about signals, flight planning, etc. Thank you.